And hello and good day, good morning, good afternoon. I'm David Boles, and this is Boles.tv. We are live and in person with a few changes, and I just have to do a little thing here with my Apple TV. I'll explain why in just a second. Boles.tv. We are live. Okay, so what's interesting? Why did I do that? Well, sometimes when you make changes with video, audio, you have to make sure that it's actually working. It looks like it's working here on my microphone. Looks like it's working here on my meter for audio going out in the broadcast. And so I have a big TV that's right over here that I use to know if I am streaming or not. And I always use my Apple TV to do that. I also have a smaller iPad right here and a laptop over here. It's all very sophisticated. So on the big TV, I go into Apple TV, go into the usually Twitch app, and I click so I can make sure that I'm live and streaming. Well, the last week or so, Jana Marie just sent me a message saying, I'll watch your show. I don't have a meeting today at noon. Hello, baby. So I reply, okay. A message from the Marie shows up. You respond. So last week, Twitch updated their Apple TV app for Twitch, or Twitch updated it for Apple TV, I guess is the way it goes. And for, a year and a half streaming, the Twitch app on Apple TV has been an absolute delight. I go up, I click over, click on my icon for my show because I'm logged into Twitch, and blink, the live stream shows up. Now they've changed it where, when you look at your favorites, you highlight it and it's a white screen and you can't read what channel you're on. It's a big mess. And they have removed your logged in status channel ID icon. So I can't go to watch the show anymore. Because this is, what's there now is settings. So you click on that, it takes you to your account settings. Log in, log out, I guess change your credit card number. Nobody wants that on their Apple TV because it's very unfriendly. So when Janet did her show on Saturday, I was shocked to find out that we could not watch our Twitch stream. So I did a little run around and I searched for the show, but you have to use the clicker to click back and forth between BOLES.TV, search, find, go. It took 10 minutes. I want to go up, over, click, go. There's the show. You can't do that anymore with the Apple TV Twitch app update. Now you can only try to get to your own show. So if you want to watch yourself on a big TV, by doing a search and then hoping that it pops up. Very slow process. But I am watching myself on the big TV. How? I'll tell you how. We multi-stream. That's not what they call it. It's simulcast. I've always called it multi-stream, but I guess that doesn't necessarily mean live. When you are live streaming to more than one place, that is a simulcast. You are simultaneously casting to 12 different places. And we don't really simulcast that many places now because we're off Facebook, where we used to stream. And we're off Twitter, and we used to stream to 3 channels there. That's all gone. So on our Apple TV, we have a YouTube app, which is like the Twitch app. And you click on that, and that has not been changed or updated yet, because now you click on the YouTube app, up pops, hey, do you know that you're live? You can watch your own live stream if you want to, young man. You're logged in. So now I click on that, and I'm watching myself on the YouTube. Now, the only issue with YouTube is Usually Twitch is very in sync with what I'm saying right now. Maybe behind a second or two. YouTube, in my experience, can be behind what I say by a few seconds, sometimes like 30 seconds. So that's really weird, where you have people commenting on things that you said 30 seconds ago, or sometimes even a minute ago. And they're just watching it, so they're, replying, typing, and you're doing the show live, and their comment pops up, and you're talking about something totally different. So then you have to go back in time and address what they're talking about, because they don't know they're 30 seconds behind. And who says they're 30 seconds behind? As far as YouTube is considered, they're on time. So that's part of the fun of having your own live show. You never know who's watching, when they're watching, and if they're watching in real time or not. So that is my rant, my first rant of the day, about the Twitch app update on Apple Television, which really sucks. Hey, what else is on the agenda? Well, I'll tell you a story now about something that everything seems to hit me at 5 in the morning. And I now realize all these crises happen because I go to bed early, I get up early. And it's about 5:15, 5:30 when all the things start cascading in front of me because I'm looking at my computer again. So this morning at 6 o'clock, 5:35, I get a notification. Hey! There's a $60 charge on your credit card. Okay, that's not terrible. It's not like it's $600 or $6,000, but $60 is, I know it's related to something online because all these places try to get you for, $5 a month if you pay in advance. Instead of $8 a month, you pay $5 a month, $60 a year. That's the magic number in these service industries, especially things like for Discord or for live streaming. They really like to charge you $5 a month. Microblogging is $5 a month. Boles.co. Our Wick bot, $5 a month. So as I'm looking at this, I'm thinking, well, I know nothing is due to renew today for $60. It's sort of ruining my morning. And then I dig into it deeper, and my morning was really ruined. Because I discovered the $60 charge was completely unauthorized, and it came from Krisp.ai. That's KRISP.ai. Now, I discovered Krisp.ai about a year ago, right about the time this stream was starting to go live. And what it is an environmental noise suppressor, depressant. And you install it on your computer, and the Krisp AI becomes your microphone, and I guess, your video broadcast, if they offer that, I think somehow. And then I guess I remember training it so it recognizes your voice, and then it filters out the background noise and other noises that don't match your voice. It's all very technical. I went through all those hoops jumping a year ago. It didn't really, in my experience, work very well. The voice training didn't do anything, in my opinion. So I used it for maybe a week and a half on Windows 11, and I talked about it often here on this live stream because it gave me so much trouble. So I realized this was not working. Krisp.ai was taking over my computer in very odd and mysterious ways that I did not like on a subsystem level, as far as I understood it. So I went around and around with Krisp.ai. Oh, you have to do this and that, and jump through this hoop and that hoop, and maybe it'll work fine. But I said, well, this isn't working for me. So, I paid up front for a year, but I don't want it anymore. So I canceled my membership They confirmed. Fine. Canceled. Online. Done. I uninstalled Krisp.ai from my computer because they track your usage, how many hours and minutes you're using their software. Allegedly, so they can keep track, I guess, on the quality of service, but I guess it also means in some way they're listening to you. So they have a record of every time you are using their software. You turn it on and you speak, and they know because they're metering you, right? So they know if you're using their service or not. So I said, I've been here 2 weeks. It's not working. It doesn't sound right. It's cutting off the beginnings and the ends of my words, not even sentences, but individual words. I can't do it. So then, after I canceled all of that, I want to get it off my system because I'm the kind of person who doesn't want things hanging around, especially on a system level, if they're not being used, because that can tend to corrupt other things that you don't understand. So I went through the uninstall routine for Krisp.ai to take it off of my brand new, beautiful Dell Windows 11 professional computer. And it completely crashed my system. The uninstall process for Krisp.ai completely messed up my computer, where it would sort of half boot, not boot, all after it's trying to restart after being uninstalled. And I reboot, I restart. It sort of comes back, but all of the audio is messed up. Microphones, speakers, inputs, outputs, they're all messed up. And I'm thinking, okay, is this my punishment for uninstalling Krisp.ai, removing it from my system? Should I reinstall Krisp.ai to see if I can get at least my computer to function again? And I said, why would I do that when I can't get rid of it in the first place? Why would I bring it back? So after a couple of days of very wonky interaction with my computer and my streaming life, after uninstalling Krisp.ai, I came to the rational and painful conclusion that I would have to wipe my brand new machine. Luckily, I didn't have a lot of stuff on it yet. Wipe my new machine, reinstall everything from base one, as the kids say, and go totally fresh. And I was immediately propelled back to my Windows 95 beta testing days. And that's what you did a lot of times. You just started from nothing. You reinstalled everything. You did it all from scratch. Meow. And I did, and everything magically came back. My computer was faster, stronger than ever after I got rid of Krisp.ai. So seeing that charge on my credit card this morning really made me very angry because for a year I had canceled Krisp.ai, and it's 5 a.m. So I went online and did a little bit of research. Well, maybe they changed or they updated, and you see a lot of negative reviews online about people saying, look, this doesn't work, and other people saying, look, I canceled their service and they still charged me later. And I complained about it, and they're not giving me my money back. They are giving me my money back. They're charging me a processing fee. They've refunded the processing fee. And I'm thinking, okay, there are some companies like that out there. You cancel, and you've canceled. And then they turn around and say, well, maybe you're a big company, and maybe you're not technically proficient, and maybe you're sick, and you won't notice if we just put a little $60 charge there for the next year on your credit card. Well, I noticed. I went to their website, went to help, said, look, you charged me again. I don't want it. And they almost immediately replied and said, oh, you didn't cancel. But, we'll refund you, but we do ask for your patience. Now, I want them to remedy the reversing of the charge with the same tenacity in which they charge my credit card at 5 in the morning. As of this broadcast, 6 hours later, I have no refund. So I wrote back and I said, well, I did cancel. I know that this is what your company does, where people cancel and you charge them anyway somehow. And I'm not a patient person when it comes to these sorts of issues. And they replied again and said, oh, yes, we refunded you. So, I guess we'll wait a day or two and see if they actually did refund me. And if they don't, then you bring down the heavy hammer. And you have to go to your credit card company and put in a dispute and say, look, I want my money back. Here's a screenshot of them saying they're refunding my money. They haven't done it yet. Please take care of them. And if you're a company like that charges people for services that they have canceled and you charge them anyway, I guarantee you they get a lot of chargebacks. I guarantee you that Stripe, their payment processing company, I believe it's Stripe, is not going to take kindly to these chargebacks because it costs time and money, and it's not a good look for Stripe or for the people at Krisp.ai. So, hey, now it's time to have a little bit more fun. Have you heard of this? Trader Joe's dark chocolate, sunflower seed, not peanut butter, sunflower seed butter, buttercups. These are absolutely delicious, irrevocably addictive. And if you get maybe 10 little tiny cups in a bag like this, and they're absolutely fantastic. And the best part of it all, I don't know if you can see it, but I can see it, is this word right here. We don't have autofocus anymore because there's computers. It says vegan right there. Hey, it's Jana Marie. Sunflower chocolates are so good. Oh, I agree. They're delicious. And you can't stop eating them. And they're vegan. And speaking of Jana Marie, this is, I don't know, silly jelly. I've shown this to you before. It's very good for getting rid of stress, I've learned. And it's a jelly heart that you can then, play with. Now this is slightly cold. I guess I need to warm it up first in my ugly hands, so I can play with it a little more. But last time I played with this for about 10 minutes on the show, and it's just this. Pulling it apart, putting it back together, give it a little twist, pulling it apart, putting it back together, giving it a little twist. This is from Jana Marie as well. All good things come from the beautiful Jana Marie, sweetheart. Don't forget it. So I will probably use this. I should have used it for my first rant. Do I have another rant coming up? Yes, I do, actually. Okay, that'll be a good one. But let me show you my other. This is my birthday gift from the Jana Marie, sweetheart. And it is our friend and your friend. I put this on our Mastodon account as well. Dr. Anthony Fauci. Now, someone who has very bad taste would say this is a life-sized replica of Dr. Fauci. But because I am couth and educated, I will never say that. But if you're looking for darlingism and sweetness in a very tiny, beautiful doll, and as I said on Mastodon, I want Dr. Fauci to sign this for me one day. You can't beat Dr. Fauci in doll form. His arms are movable, posable. He comes in a Fauci box, which is sort of behind me. And he has a mask that you can remove and see his beautiful face. Oh, Janet says he's the #1 doctor. Yes, he's the best. He got us through the AIDS pandemic. He got us through the COVID pandemic. And there are 30% of the people in America who want to see him in trouble. It's just the most fascinating, vicious, awful thing I've ever seen or witnessed in my life. So I now have a beautiful Fauci doll. And the sweet Jana Marie, who got this for me on my birthday, stethoscope right here, said this was the last one left in a New York City, very cute, in a New York City store. And there were like 50 left of the I'm Speaking figurine. Do you know who that is, right? Miss I'm Speaking. You have to do the right tone. I'm speaking. And then you have to look at the person. And of course, that is now Vice President Kamala Harris. And she was speaking during her debate with Pence, and he kept interrupting her, and she would say, I'm speaking. And she's right. But people don't want her doll. People want the Fauci doll. And so I have one, the last one in New York City. And I'm very happy to have it. His legs do not move. His bottoms of his feet felt like rubber to me, so they stand up, but it's not. It's regular plastic. So this is my new friend, Dr. Fauci. He'll be with me every day, standing right here during the live show. So now I have to take up my soothing jelly to tell you one more interesting story before we get into the meat of today. And this is the story of the Uber street scam. And I will share this story, and I will name names, because I sort of have permission to do that this time. Often I tell stories without permission. And I just say things, make things up, hide identities, tell a half-truth instead of a full truth in order to protect innocent parties. So the other day, our sweet and delightful Jana Marie sweetheart, who gave me this and this, we'll have a quiz later, and one other thing, can you name it? It is yellow. Hello. The lovely Jana Marie Sweeney was arriving home, and this tiny woman came up to her, desperate, right outside our building, saying that her child was stranded at home and that she needed to have Jana Marie get an Uber to come and pick her up and take her home. And she's desperate. She had no money. So Jana Marie did the very smart thing, and she said, let me just call my husband and see what my husband has to say. And in her mind, she was saying, I know he'll say no, no matter what, so I can get out of it. So she called, and I was a little alarmed because she really doesn't call like that right before she gets home. So I'm thinking, uh-oh, something's up. And something was up. And she just said, look, there's a woman here who wants us to call her an Uber to take her home. And I said, no, scam, run. And in the back of her mind, she said, okay, I knew he would say no. And she told the woman no, came home. And then the Jana Marie asked me, she said, well, what was that about? How do you know it's a scam? Or are you just, being a mean person, as you usually are? And saying no to a woman in need, a desperate woman. And I said, do you remember, I wrote an article about this. I even shared the story here on the live stream maybe a year ago, of the woman who tried to scam me. And she was, it appeared like she was waiting for me, and I didn't know her. But as I said that day, I was dressed like a dad. Khaki pants, blue windbreaker, nice shoes, better looking hair than I have right now. My little bag, right, coming out of our building, lily white-faced. Oh, and this woman, who was obviously sitting there looking for her next mark, looked at me and said, "Oh, I see him." So she ran up to me. The second I came out of the building, ran right up to me. I couldn't move around her. She was right on me. And she was pretending to cry. Now, when people pretend to cry, they're pretending because there are no tears in their eyes. People don't cry really without tearing. So they hide their face, they pretend they're wiping stuff away from their face, but they're not. They're not crying, they're pretending to cry. And you see that a lot on television and in the movies, because there are not a lot of people, if they're not upset genuinely, who can cry on command. Now, there are some people in real life, and there are some people on television and the movies who can cry at the drop of a hat. They don't care. They'll weep until they can no more. But this woman was not one of those. And she's very short, but she's looking up at me, and she said, like she's crying, but she's not crying. "Oh, my daughter is at home, and I have to get to her because she's home alone, and she's hungry." And then she goes on and on, and then finally she gets to the point where she says, "Can you give me $5 for the train?" And I said, "Well, the train, the PATH station at that time was like $2.50. I said, well, the PATH is only $2.50, knowing I'm being scammed, but I'll have a conversation with her just to see how far she'll go. "Oh, well, I have to take 2 trains, and I have to take the PATH, and I have to transfer." And I knew this scam because I had read about it, that they try to, get you to, they want cash. If you offer to buy them a ticket, if you offer to walk them to the PATH and tap them in, they don't want that. They want $5. So if I felt like, playing with this a little longer, I would have said, "Well, I'm going to the PATH," which I was. "We'll go together. I'll tap you in." And I've done that before for other people who've really been stranded. And they're stranded because they're lost. They don't know what to do. Their card doesn't work. So if you have, you pay per ride like we do, you tap them in. And she said, "No, it has to be cash because I need to pay the cash. I have to pay a person back first who's then going to buy me the ticket, but I need the $5. So I did not want to continue that conversation. But she was right. I could not, if I moved a little bit, like trying to get around her, she would move with me like we were one. I went this way, she went this way. I went this way, she went this way. So I, did the old football fake, and I went this way and then that way. And I said, "I'm sorry, I'm not interested," and got around her and walked very fast. And I could hear her behind me, "Please, sir, come back. Help me with the $5. And there were people around, looking at me like, "Well, what have you done to that poor woman? Have you taken her $5? And I just walked on my way, and by the time I got back, she was gone. Never saw her again. But I thought, okay, I got to be careful how I dress. I got to fit in a little more. Don't look so, nerdy, daddy, Midwesterly, because people judge you very quickly on the street. And they say, oh, there's a sucker. Now, speaking of suckers, I say with a smile on my face, as we return to the story of Jana Marie Sweetheart. And Jana does get stopped a lot on the street, even though she's deaf. She has a beautiful, kind, warm face, and people always ask her for help. And they're genuine. They're not trying to rip her off. They don't know where they are. They're lost. People always ask Jana Marie, a deaf person, for directions. How do I get to... What street am I on? Does this train go to... Almost every day she gets asked that question. So this person coming up to her is saying, I need the Uber to go to... Now that's a better trick than the $5 one that I had. Because that one, it could cost you hundreds of dollars. And Jana said, if it's a scam, how does it work? I said, this is how it works. They don't have an Uber account. They think, because of the way you look, the way you present yourself, that you have an Uber account. So what if you had entertained her more instead of calling me, you would have gotten the story. And Jana said, while Jana was on the phone with me, that this woman was like scratching her leg. And when I say on the phone with me with Jana Marie, she's, texting me. And she said it was weird behavior, like she was scratching, itching, bothered by something that wasn't there. So I said, so this is how that scam works. She says, again, she has to get home to her daughter, just like the $5 one, waiting for me alone, just like the $5 one. And the woman will say, look, I live right around the block, something like this. They change it every once in a while, but this is the gist of the idea. I live right around the block. I hurt my ankle, or I would walk there myself. It's not far. It's just $5. But if you could call me an Uber, then I can get there faster because the train doesn't go there and the bus doesn't go there, and it's a far walk when you have a broken ankle. So far, so good, right? So where's the scam? Well, here's the scam. So let's say Jana Marie had her Uber account and was ready and willing to help. So Janet calls her an Uber, right? Puts the destination around the block. The Uber shows up. The woman gets in. And they drive away. And Janet feels good that she's done her share of a good deed for the day. And then the woman says to the Uber driver, oh, by the way, change of plan. We're not going around the block for $5. We're going to drive to Connecticut for $300. We're going to make several stops along the way. Wait for us. We're going to pick up some people. We're going to go around the corner and pick up my daughter, and then we'll continue the trip to Connecticut. And if the Uber driver is willing, the Uber driver doesn't know this is a scam, to scam you out of $300 to be charged to you later, because how would you get away with it? So instead of $5 that you give the woman, she scams you out of, let's say, $300 for a trip to Connecticut. And you call Uber later and say, wait a minute, this woman was on the street. She needed my help to go around the block, and she charged $300 by going all the way to Connecticut. What's Uber going to say? That's not our problem. You're the one who called. You're the one who put this woman in the Uber car on your account. We're not giving you back your money. So that's the scam. And when I told Jana Marie, no, it's a scam, and she said no thank you to the woman was kind of like, oh, okay. On to the next sucker. And that's what they think we are. They take advantage of what they perceive to be a kind and vulnerable person. And they do it for their own profit and their own nasty instincts to put one over on you. Now we're going to have a fun conversation about AI. I'm putting this away because we're going to be looking at things. I have to wipe my hands off again. We're going to talk about AI, which I love, and especially when it comes to ChatGPT. Now, I will tell you, there are people in the world I've discovered who really hate anything AI. They don't like AI artwork. They don't like AI chat bots like ChatGPT. And they let you know. And they will often seek you out and tell you off. And I had one person, believe it or not, who actually emailed me and called me the N-word lover, an N-lover, for celebrating my AI art on my Boles.xyz Mastodon account. So I guess that shows you the sort of person that you're dealing with online, who come and, seek you out just so they can insult you with, I guess, what they think is the worst sort of insult that they could ever hurl at a person online anonymously by calling them the N-word lover. But beyond that, I love AI. I love AI art. I love AI chat bots like ChatGPT+, but that doesn't mean that everybody does. And there are people who will love to get into an argument with you online and say that these are not people, this is not intelligence, this is all programming, it's all databases. And I say, yeah, so I know that. Why wouldn't I know that? I know that. Why are you bothering me with this? I don't care. And I read something last week about how ChatGPT is already getting started, and AI is in its infancy. So these people who are, denouncing AI, that it's immature, it is. It's immature, it's undeveloped, it's baby-like, right? It's in its infancy stage. Would you go into someone's home and make fun of a toddler for not knowing things, for having an improper data set? Yes, some people would. But most people would say, it's a baby. It's a toddler. Let's appreciate for what it already knows, what it's already been programmed and indoctrinated by its parents. 5 years, 10 years, the AI we know now is going to cripple the AI that we have right now. It's going to be that much more interesting and better. And when I say cripple, I guess I mean crush, because the AI we have now is baby-like. And in 10 years, it's going to be teenager-like, and in 20 years, it's going to be an adult, and it's going to smash everything that came before it. Look out! But I thought it was very interesting that these people had invented something called GPT radio. And GPT, artificial intelligence, chat, will pull songs from a database and play them on a radio station, right? And then they will artificially intelligence the DJ, host of the radio show. They will give a personality to the person, jokes, sing songs, do the weather, all programmed into the ChatGPT AI interface. Basically creating an entire radio station that is run and hosted artificially. There's nobody in the room. The music is playing from somewhere else. All your local news and events are being spoken by a deep-voiced man in the lucid tones of a beautiful woman that you never see, because it's all invented and typed into a chat box for what you want them to say. And you can have them program it completely. And that's going to save a lot of money for radio stations and put a lot of people out of work. Because why pay a lot of money for a morning show host when you can be your own morning show host? Tell your own jokes, have your own silly banter, and no one will know the difference because the text gets translated into voice, and the rest is going to be a devastating history for all of humankind. I think it's exciting. I think it's just great. And soon you're not going to need any new movie stars because AI is going to dig up, resurrect all these old movie stars. So you're going to have new movies with Marilyn Monroe, Humphrey Bogart. Put them in new movies together. They'll be starring. They'll look exactly like the movie stars we have today. And all these young kids are going to say, oh my gosh, look at that guy named Marlon Brando. Gee, he's really good. Where'd he come from? Well, he came from the grave, resurrected by AI. And these movie producers are going to say, why should I pay, Brad Pitt $25 million? I can have the AI Brad Pitt for $10,000. And why discover new people? Who needs new talent? Let's just keep regurgitating what we already had. And if they have, some kind of personality disorder or mental condition, like, say, Michael Jackson, dig him up through AI, say, oh my gosh, we've reprogrammed him. He doesn't have all those faults he had. Now he's perfect. He's the perfect role model. Here's a Michael Jackson album starring in a new movie just for you. Going there. And we're getting there faster than we realize. So I've always had this interest in color blindness because I'm not bragging, I'm just sharing facts, wonderful color vision. And all throughout my life, I have been told by my eye doctors, you can see colors that 99.99% of the people cannot see. Differences and variations, like they'll show you a green and a blue. Is it more green or more blue? Is this green or blue? And I would always say it has slightly more green than blue. And they were all shocked because a lot of the doctors who were male couldn't tell the difference. They'd look on the back of the card. Oh, that's right. It's 98% green and 3% blue, but there is blue in it, right? You said there's blue. Yeah, there's blue. I don't see it. So the other day, I got an interesting email from a friend of mine who teaches. And when I taught, I used to use a blackboard, chalk on slate, and then they kind of moved us to a whiteboard, which was awful. But the fun thing about a whiteboard is you could use various colors of ink to make your presentation of writing on the board interesting. You use green, blue, sometimes yellow, black, all kinds of colors, purple, fun, right? And then my friend said, I was in class the other day teaching, and this guy in the back row raised his hand and said, I can't see the board. So my friend said, well, come sit up in the front. He said, no, I don't mean that. I mean, I can't see what you're writing on the board. And my friend said, are you saying you need glasses? I don't understand what you're saying. And a friend sitting next to the student said, he can't see the colors. And my friend was like, yeah. And the student, so said, yeah, I'm colorblind. I don't see red and green very well. So when you write on the board, the new vocabulary, the new idea, the new author we're reading about, and you use green, and then I guess you're highlighting it with a different color that I still can't see. When you're writing and then you stop writing, the whiteboard is still white. I don't see the color of what you're writing. Now that's mind-blowing because I taught for a lot of years and I always use different colors to try to be entertaining. And it makes me wonder, how many people did I have in my class couldn't see what I was writing because they couldn't see the color? So the solution is you use black ink. And that's what I will use from now on. My friend will use from now on. Forget the colors. Just buy a big box of black markers to write on the board so everyone can see. And I've always had this thing about color, wondering if you are a medical doctor and if you had color blindness, could you be a doctor? Because if you can't see red or green, red is blood dripping, running. Green can be the color of infection. Yellow is another colorblind color that some people have. Can you see yellow? Is yellow there? Is yellow functional? Well, if you can't see yellow, how do you know? And I mention yellow specifically because when I was a graduate student at Columbia University in the city of New York, one of the office workers, who was a friend of mine, came up and said to me, pulled me into his office and said, look, I just got this memo from the dean. And he's highlighted in yellow, highlighter, neon yellow, really important parts of this very long and intricate memo. I don't know what it says. I said, what do you mean you don't know what it says? He said, look, I'm colorblind, okay? I can't see yellow. He said, I can see there's a little bit of a haze on the page, but I'm not exactly sure what parts are important and what parts are not important. Can you read it to me? So I said, sure. So I read it to him. And there was a lot of yellow. So I read it to him, the yellow parts. He said, oh. He wrote that down. I said, give me a pen too. He gave me a pen, black pen, And I underlined and bracketed all the things that were in yellow so he could refer to it later. He said, "Thank you so much." I left. I thought, well, that was an interesting experience, to go through life having a highlighter color blindness. So then that's when I decided, well, why don't I have some fun in learning with myself? And I'll go right to Chat GPT Plus and ask questions about color blindness that I've had all of my life, that were instigated, these new questions, by my friend and the student not being able to see the board, and my friend in graduate school who could not read the note from the dean. So my question is, how common is color blindness across the world? And ChatGPT says color blindness is a relatively common genetic condition that affects the way people perceive color. It's estimated that around 8% of men and 0.5% of women of Northern European descent are affected by some form of color blindness. However, the prevalence of color blindness varies greatly among different populations. Red-green color blindness is the most common form of the condition, affecting 6% of men and 0.4% of women. Very interesting. So, red-green. Now, it makes you wonder about stoplights. Red-green, yellow, red-green. And I've learned throughout my life that people with color blindness don't look for the color of the light. They look for the position of the light in the traffic light. Top is green, right? The middle is yellow. And so they can see if the light is on or off or not. And that gives them the context to know if they have a green light or a red light to stop. But when you're in a classroom and someone is writing on the board in green and red and highlighting and pointing and drawing arrows, you don't have a context for what you're missing. There's no light that's lighting up that clues you in. Oh, the instructor is using a red marker instead of a green marker. Yellow color blindness is much less common, affecting only a small percentage of people. So my friend at Columbia, who had, I guess, blue-yellow color blindness, is pretty rare that he couldn't see a yellow highlight. So then I asked, what is the best way to deal with color blindness when others are not aware of your perception? Now that's what I wanted, because I know I have obviously, if you look at the statistics, I've had students who are colorblind, and they never said a word to me. Now maybe I always used black ink, I don't know. But I think it's a little bit of a responsibility of the student to at least raise your hand and say, I can't see the colors green and red. Can you use a different ink, please? That's what ChatGPT says. Hey, educate others. If you feel comfortable doing so, tell them about your color blindness. Another suggestion, use alternative methods of description. Instead of relying solely on color to describe things, use other descriptive words like dark or light or striped. You can use assistive technology. Now, I've heard about this, that there are glasses you can buy that help you see the colors you can't see. There are a number of assistive technologies available that can help people with color blindness distinguish between different colors. For example, some apps and software can change the way colors are displayed on a screen and make them more distinguishable. Ask for help. As my friend at Columbia did. Don't be afraid to ask others for help when you need it, especially in situations where color is important, such as choosing clothing or picking out food or reading a memo from the dean. And be patient and understanding when dealing with others who may not know that you are colorblind. Most people are well-intentioned and may not know what you're going through. Then this was the thing that I really wanted to ask, but I had to set up ChatGPT first. What careers would disallow a person with color blindness? I don't understand how, let's say, an eye doctor can be colorblind and do the job. Because how can you know what the colors of the eye that you are seeing are if you cannot see, let's say, the colors red or green? ChatGPT says, well, you might not want to be an artist or a graphic designer. You might not want to be a photographer because they need to be able to capture and reproduce things in images. A traffic controller or air traffic controller. Those jobs require the ability to distinguish between different colored signals and lights. Now, that's very interesting, too, because I did not know the one job that a disabled person who cannot hear, a deaf person, the one job you cannot have in the entire world that you are banned from having is being an airline pilot and probably working traffic control. Because if you cannot hear on the radio what's being said between you and the tower speaking to you and you declaring an emergency, if you can't talk to them using your voice and being able to hear what they say back, you cannot have that job. It seems discriminatory, but I guess it's a safety issue. Electricians should not be colorblind because you have to distinguish between different colored wires and cables. Pilots, here we go, need to be able to distinguish between different colored instruments and lights. So colorblind, deaf, you're out in the airline industry. Now, I thought it was interesting that it didn't talk about medical doctors. So I asked, are medical doctors allowed to be colorblind? How would they perceive blood infections if they cannot distinguish the colors? And so, this is what ChatGPT said. Yes, medical doctors can be colorblind, but it may affect their ability to diagnose and treat certain conditions that require the ability to accurately perceive color. For example, medical doctors need to be able to distinguish between different colors in medical images and diagnostic tests, such as X-rays and CT scans and MRI scans, which can provide important information about a patient's health. They also need to be able to identify different colored rashes, right? Bruises. The bruisings sometimes is green and yellow, and it's the progression of the bruise. And other skin conditions which can indicate underlying health problems. Now, regarding blood, color blindness may make it difficult for a medical doctor to accurately perceive changes in skin color or detect bruising, which can be important indicators of internal bleeding or other health problems. However, there are alternative diagnostic tools and techniques that medical doctors can use to compensate for color blindness, such as ultrasound and other imaging tests. And I'm sure there's a lot of help there for doctors. Context is everything, so if the computer says this is yellow, it doesn't have to just show yellow. It can also, give you a little printout on the screen that says this is yellow. Additionally, medical schools and hospitals often have programs in place to accommodate individuals with colorblindness, such as providing specialized training, tools, and technologies that can help them perform their job effectively. So that's a fascinating conversation, both in real life, in artificial time. Colorblindness is here, it's with us. A lot of people don't seem to want to talk about it too much because you don't hear about it a lot. But for those who have to, live and survive in a world full of different colors, it can be a trying and interesting thing to try to cope with, overcome, and perhaps solve through technology. And we've had a wonderful show today. I thank you so much for being here. We've touched a lot of places. We've touched all the continents and all the wild ideas we can possibly have in our time together. I thank you so much for being here. I bid you good day, and I will see you next time. Bye.